welcome to the Crochet Cakes YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be practicing the thermal stitch. Previously, we did a tutorial like last year on the thermal stitch, and that includes the single crochet thermal stitch and the double crochet thermal stitch. Today, we're going to be practicing the single crochet thermal stitch as well as a double crochet ruffle stitch by working up this super warm teapot cozy. So this teapot cozy is designed to fit the average teapot of 7 inches by 7 inches. So that is 7 inches wide, 7 inches tall. If you need to adjust this, then we simply add more chains at the beginning for a wider teapot cozy, or we add more rows at the top for a taller teapot cozy. In order to crochet this teapot cozy, we're going to need some ribbon to function as our ties. We are, of course, going to be needing some yarn. In this case, we're going to be using Wool of the Andes worsted. We're also going to be using a 5mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and of course a tape measure. In addition to this video tutorial, you can purchase the PDF pattern for the teapot cozy on Ravelry. I will leave a link in the description box below. The PDF pattern not only includes this teapot cozy that I fondly call the Mrs. Potts teapot cozy, but it also includes a coaster and a crochet kitchen towel pattern, that is. Okay, so now we are all set to work up our 2 panels for this teapot cozy. Yes, I said 2 panels because what we have is front panel, back panel, and then we seam them together like so at the bottom and at the top, leaving space for our spout and our handle. And of course, we also leave the top without seaming because we need that to cinch up our teapot cozy. Okay, let's get started. To crochet up this teapot cozy, we're going to begin with a slip knot and a chain of 23. Now, if you've never crocheted a thermal stitch before, then I will leave the link to that tutorial in the description box below and in the iCard above. I won't go into a lot of detail on how to work up the thermal stitch, but in the tutorial you can find all the information that you need. If you need to make this teapot cozy wider than 7 inches, then I would suggest adding about 3 more chains here. Okay, so now to work up the thermal stitch, the first row of the thermal stitch is simply working single crochets in the top loop of our chain. So this is the bottom loop, this is the top loop. In the top loop of our chain, we're going to insert our hook and we're going to work single crochets. Okay, and since we start in the second chain from the hook, we're just going to continue working single crochets into the top loops of each chain for this first row. And now at the end of row 1, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn. Now, this is the beginning of the thermal stitch as such. Now we're going to begin working thermal stitch. To work thermal stitch, we go into the back loop of our stitch and into the remaining loop from the row below. Okay. And we yarn over, pull up a loop, and work a single crochet. Again, we go into the back loop of our current row and into the remaining loop from the row below, and we complete a single crochet. The thermal stitch is really just a variation of the single crochet. It's just that since we're working into a current row loop and a bottom row loop, we create an extra thick fabric. Let's double check that we have 22 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 22 stitches. Now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn and we're going to begin row 3. Now we're going to insert our hook again in the back loop of our current row and into the remaining loop of the row below. And we're going to do a single crochet, back loop, remaining loop. And we're going to continue working thermal stitch until we have completed a total of 34 rows. Now in this part of the tutorial, I'm going to walk you through working the round of single crochets around our panel and then working the top of our teapot cozy together. We will also weave in our ribbon or our chains that will form the ties of our teapot cozy. So let's get started. So once we've completed one of the panels, we need to work our border, and this is the single crochet border that we work around the panel. So we are going to work this border continuing with our Wool of the Andes yarn and our 5mm crochet hook. So we're going to turn our work 90 degrees and we are going to be working 18 single crochets along the side of the square. This is my first single crochet of the side, and you can see that I'm kind of separating the rows and working between the rows to make my stitches as evenly as I can. So the important thing here is that when you complete this side, you have 18 single crochet and they are placed as evenly as possible. I'm going to continue working my 18 single crochet along the side, and I will meet you back here when it is time to work the bottom. Once we complete our 18 single crochets along the side of the square, we are going to work 22 single crochets along the bottom of our square. So this is going to be my first single crochet, and I'm going to be working over the tail as I move along. Working on the bottom is a little bit easier because we have stitches or chains in this case to work into, right? So we're just going to be working along every chain until we have a total of 22 single crochets along the bottom. And now it's time to work up the other side of our panel. So we are going to once again do 18 single crochet and place them as we did for the other side as evenly as possible. So for me, I find that working kind of like between each thermal stitch row works well, because remember that with the thermal stitch you're essentially working 2 rows for every row. At least that's how I like to think about it. So I'm going to continue my single crochet until I've worked 18 single crochets total, and I will meet you back here at the top of the square. Once we make our 18th single crochet, we are going to join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet that is at the top, okay? We are not going to turn our work. We are right side facing, so we're going to continue working. Now for the top of the tea cozy, round 1, we're going to do 1/2 double crochet in each stitch. So we should have a total of 22 half double crochets. And I will meet you back here when I've completed those 22 half double crochets for row 2 of the top. So this side that we've done the single crochets on and the half double crochets is our right side facing. Now we've completed row 1, which was our half double crochet row. So now for row 2, we are going to chain 1 and turn, and we are going to work a double crochet into each stitch. This should be the wrong side of the work, okay? And we should have a total of 22 double crochets. Once we've completed our double crochet row, it is time to work our ruffle. So we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work 90 degrees. We're not going to turn to work on the right side of the work. No, we're just going to turn our work 90 degrees and make sure that we are on the wrong side. Now we are going to chain 1, okay? And we are going to work 3 double crochet around each post from row 2. So we're working the 3 double crochets around the entirety of the double crochet stitch. So the post, not the top of the stitch where we would normally work into. This is number 3. Get our ruffly effect, pay attention to the way I've turned the work, okay? Because now we're facing the bottom of our double crochet post, and we're going to once again work 3 double crochet stitches around this post, okay? So that's the first double crochet stitch. We get to do 2 more around this post. Once again, we are turning the work so that this time we are at the top of the next double crochet post, okay? And we're going to continue working our double crochet stitches around the post. And don't forget to work your very last ruffle into this double crochet. It's a double crochet that we did at the beginning in the previous round. It tends to hide. So this is my second double crochet around the post, and now the third double crochet around the post to complete the ruffle. Okay, and now what we're going to do after we complete our ruffle is make sure that the top of the row is to the top, and we're going to slip stitch into the V that goes with the post we just worked around, okay? So again, this is the post we just worked around, and this is the V at the top of the stitch that corresponds to that post. Sometimes it's easier if you turn your work and you're facing what is the back of the ruffle, and you can see your V's easier. So again, we are going to slip stitch into this V at the top of the stitch right here. And once we do that, we are going to work a double crochet into each stitch. So you can do your alternate double crochet, which would be do a single crochet, then go into the leg of the stitch, pull up a loop again, and work another single crochet. Or you could do a chain 3 if you prefer, or you could also just chain 1 loosely and then work your double crochet stitch. So we are going to continue working 1 double crochet into each stitch from row 2. Okay, so remember, to work our ruffle, we worked around the posts, but we still have the very top of the stitches, the V's, where we would normally work into. Once we've completed our double crochet row, we should have a total of 22 double crochets. So we're going to chain one and turn our work 90 degrees. And we are once again going to work our ruffle stitch. So remember, that is 3 double crochets around each post. We've completed one extra warm Teapot cozy panel. Don't forget to crochet up the other one, and let's meet back here to seam the panels. So once we've completed our 2 panels for the Teapot cozy, it is time to seam and actually form our cozy. So in order to do this, we are going to be referring to the wrong side and the right side of our tea cozy. So right now my panels are right side facing because the right side refers to the single crochet border being the right side out. And we're going to be seaming 1.5 inches at the top of the cozy and 1.5 inches at the bottom of the cozy. So you can seam your cozy however way you'd like. You can slip stitch it together, you can do whip stitch, so on and so forth. I prefer to use the very back bump of the single crochet stitch. And in order to do that, I'm going to need my ruffles, or the wrong side of my work, to be facing up. Okay, so those ruffles should be facing up. And I'm going to show you right now what I mean by the back bump of the single crochet stitch. Okay, so this here is the top of the single crochet. If we turn our work to the front, we can see it clearly. And the back bumps refers to these little bumps right behind the V stitches. So that is the bump that I'm going to be using to join our cozy with. Like I said, you can use whatever method you prefer. I just think this creates a rather seamless join. To join the very top, we are going to skip our ruffle rows. So we're only joining to the single crochets. And I went through the bump on my left side panel, and now I'm going to go through the first single crochet bump on the right side panel. And remember that on the sides we should have 18 single crochets, so those are the ones that we are lining up. Here I'm just making sure that I'm joining to the side single crochets and not to the top single crochets, okay? Alright, so that back bump, and now I'm just going to pull my thread through. And I'm going to align my stitches again, go through the back bump on the right side and now through the back bump on the left side. And I'm going to be inserting my needle and pulling my thread through. Now I'm going to be doing this, as I said, until I've sewn together 1.5 inches at the top. And I'm going to repeat this seaming method along the bottom, seaming 1.5 inches together. So if we look from the right side, this is what our seam looks like. As you can see, it's pretty, I was gonna say harmless, but sorry, I meant it's pretty hidden. So for the bottom, as I said, we're also going to be using this joining method, and do not forget to repeat the join for the other side, because one side is for the spout to come out of and the other side is for the handle to come out of. So when we're seaming the side panels at the bottom, we need to make sure that we do not actually seam the bottom single crochet. So again, you can make sure by counting that you have 18 single crochets on your side to make sure that you leave that very bottom single crochet unworked, because if you seam it, it's gonna be too tight on our teapot. Teapots tend to be bigger at the bottom, or at least mine is. So again, I'm just using those very, very back bumps of the single crochet to join into. And once I've completed my 1.5 inches on this side, we will have seamed one side of the teapot cozy. Do not forget to repeat these steps for the remaining side. After we seam, we need to turn our work right side facing so that we can continue with the finishing touches, which is of course weaving in the ends as well as working our ties for the top of the cozy. So while in the pattern I do give options for the ties, I decided to go with the ribbon option. So I'm using an off-ray ribbon here, and it is 3/8 of an inch wide. what we're going to be doing is, as you saw me, insert it into our weaving needle, and then we're going to insert our needle under, over half double crochet row, under, over the stitches in the half double crochet row. And then we're going to pull our needle through. So we are literally weaving our ribbon through our stitches. You could probably use a thinner ribbon and it would be easier, but I wanted my ribbon to be green, and this was the thinnest green ribbon that I had. So again, I'm going under my first stitch, over my second, under my third, and so on and so forth, weaving in my green ribbon. Once we've woven our ribbon into one side, it is time to do the other panel, and we're going to continue with the weaving motion. So this time I'm going to go over my first half double crochet, then under my next half double crochet, over and under. Remember, we are weaving into the half double crochet row. And this would be the same method of weaving in that you would use if you had decided to work chains instead of a ribbon. Work your chain separately and then weave it in. And once it's all woven in, we can cinch it shut and it should look something like this. This is what our cozy would look like on a teapot. My teapot might be a little too small for this cozy, but we're going to make it work. And we are simply going to tuck it in here, making sure that our spout and our handle are on the either side of the opening, and then we're going to cinch it shut with our ribbon, and we've completed our Mrs. Potts tea cozy. Look at that. Isn't she cute? And of course, please remember to weave in your ends because I have yet to weave mine in. And ideally, your ribbon would face the handle side so it doesn't get full of tea. Thank you ever so much for joining me for this extra warm teapot cozy tutorial, or as I fondly call her, the Mrs. Potts teapot cozy. I hope that you enjoyed it, and do let me know what color would you make your teapot cozy in. I will see you in the next video. Bye!